Thank you, everyone. I'm glad to be here. So first, to kind of extend the introduction a little bit, I am a self-publishing author, and I've published over 250 titles in 6 languages. I've published 39 audiobooks. I have my own publishing company, which focuses on, publishing my work, in which case I employ about 10 freelancers. And I have created a piece of software, which John has mentioned, called My Publishing Assistant, which I designed to help me work through the bureaucracy of publishing. Because once you get over a certain number of titles, you're spending more time managing your titles than you are actually writing your books. So there are 2 types of publishers, I like to think, 2 types of authors. There are the hobbyists and there are the professional authors. The hobbyists are the people, I consider the people who love writing. They write because it's their passion. They're the bloggers, they're the fan fiction writers, and if you guys aren't familiar with fan fiction, what it is when people take like their favorite TV show or their favorite movie, and they say, you know what, I think the story goes beyond what was mentioned in the movie or the TV show. And they then expand on it and they publish it to places like Blogger, or they publish to places like Tumblr. So an example of this would be if you guys have heard of the book 50 Shades of Grey, which made $93 million for the author back in 2012. What happened with that book was that the author was a fan fiction writer, and she was a big fan of the Twilight series, exactly. And she thought, well, I have all these readers. I should see whether or not I can turn this into some sort of money. So what she did is she took all of her fan fiction. She changed the concept a little bit. So instead of being a vampire, he was just like a businessman, and just altered it slightly, put it into 3 books, published it on Amazon.com, and $93 million later, she changed the industry. Professional authors are those that write to make a profit, very specifically to write and make profit. So they would be your journalists or they would be your authors, and they publish at places like Huffington Post, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple, Kobo, and a whole bunch of other places. How I became a professional author as opposed to just a hobbyist. I have a long history of writing. I wrote my first story when I graduated from college. I wrote a script, a movie script, because I wanted to join the industry. And after that, I wrote a second, and then a third, and then a fourth. By the time I was 23 or so, probably written like 5 or 6. Moved out to Los Angeles and tried my hand at acting and all the rest of it. Didn't have a great deal of success. Started working at a Disney company where I was hired to do promo writing and producing. Just a little bit of writing. Then I moved over to Disney Channel, where I did the same thing, and Toon Disney and SoapNet. And during that time, I came up with an idea for a book. And I did what people did back then, all those many 10 years ago, which was you create a letter, and you find all the agents that you think might represent your book well, and you do a mass mailing, and I did a mass mailing of about 50 different agents. And luckily, within 2 days, I got a call from Dr. Phil's agent, who had said, have you signed with anyone yet? I'm like, first of all, I'm sorry, who's this? And after they clarified, I told them, that I would be very happy to join them. And what we did is we got together, we kind of fleshed out the idea for the book. They took a package that I put together to all the major publishers and allowed them to reject it one by one. Nothing eventually happened of it, although I was introduced to another publisher and we tried to take it further and still nothing. So I then focused back on my entertainment life, where I wrote and directed the first SAG experimental film to ever get theatrical distribution, which was nice. Then I started working as an editor at Vivendi Universal Games and as a freelance producer, and I joined Disney's brand marketing department, and everything was all good in the world. I was moving up the corporate ladder. I had a couple of opportunities I could go to, but they wouldn't allow people to move within Disney. It's kind of like a touchy thing there. So I decided I was going to be bold and I was going to leave Disney so that I can get any of these 3 jobs, and then the recession was announced a month after I left my job. That was surprising, but it kind of put me in an interesting position because I had unemployment coming in, and everyone was saying there's no opportunities having a job for at least another year. So I had all this time and really nothing to do. So I thought, well, I've always wanted to write a book. I've been thinking about writing a book for 20 years. How about if I sit and write that book? I wrote it. It took me 3 months. Tried to sell it. Had no luck. Then I thought, okay, well, what if I write another book, but this time I self-publish it? Back at the time, it was just paperback self-publishing. I did that, and I published it, and I did my best to promote it. I even went on Jerry Springer's game show to promote the book, and sold a couple of copies. And then I thought, well, still no job, so let me keep writing. So I wrote 3 children's books. And about that time, I was going through the news, and I saw an article on a woman named Amanda Hocking. Amanda Hocking was doing something called digital self-publishing. And the article was about how she had signed a contract with St. Martin's Press for $2 million for her self-published books. This got my attention. And I decided to go in and take a look to see what this was all about. And I found out that she kind of got her chops on a website called kboards.org. So I went there and I connected with a whole bunch of other authors, and all they do all day long is talk about digital publishing and how do you do it, how, what works, what doesn't work, what sells, what doesn't sell. And I spent that time period writing 10 different titles in about 7 different genres, trying to figure out how it is I can make a living, because after finding out about Amanda Hocking, I thought I could really make a living at this. Because at this time, I was taking in about $125 a month from writing, which was nothing. And I thought I was coming with advantages because, I was a Photoshop expert at this point. Certainly that would help me. And I wrote copy for advertising. Certainly that would help me too. Not as much as I thought. There were a lot of successful people on there that had never done, that wasn't a Photoshop expert, that didn't know anything about copy before they started writing descriptions for their books. So one of the main things I learned at that site was why readers choose a book. And they really choose a book based on 3 things: cover, title, and description. You might think, okay, well, it's the hard labor I put into writing the book that really determines whether or not someone's going to pick it up or not. Truth is that's what they're looking for. When people are flipping through Amazon.com, they're trying to see what captures their attention. If it captures their attention, they then look at the title. If they look at the title, then they'll go and they'll dig deeper into the description, and maybe they'll check out the sample, or maybe they'll just buy the book. So I want to go through each of these topics and kind of give you a feeling of what it is that people are looking for. Covers that sell books. Covers that sell books are those covers that, at a glance, you can tell certain things about the book. You can tell their genre. You get a sort of a hint of the story. You can tell that there's a level of professionalism that goes into the cover. And I say that with a grain of salt because there are a lot of books that succeed with less than professional covers, and a cover that stands out from the pack. So I'm going to show you a cover and then give you an example of what I'm talking about. So here's a cover of a book I'm quite familiar with. If you looked at this cover, what genre do you think this book belongs to? And I think a lot of you are actually right. It's a book it's a samurai book about zombies that skews to a younger crowd. So the genre would be kind of a zombie horror sort of genre. And if you look at it, you can kind of get a hint of the story because, there's the guy and he has a sword and he's holding a zombie head and there are 5 guys behind him and, you kind of get a feel of these are kind of friends or people working together to kind of fight against the zombies. So here's another cover. What genre do you think this book belongs to?
Romance.
And I'll tell you that's one of the books.
It's so sci-fi though, right? Or like fantasy.
It's like those vampire, like werewolves.
Yeah.
Romance.
And you were all right. If you read romance, you know that the male abs is an international symbol for steamy romance. Also, you have the werewolf howling up the moon, which means, or the wolf herring, which means werewolf. So essentially, this cover is telling you that this is a steamy romance book about werewolves. So how do you create a cover? There are a couple of ways of doing it. The first way I'll talk about is when you have a cover designer. What you can do is you can go and purchase pre-made covers. The examples on the left there, on your right there, are some of the covers you can actually purchase. So the one on my right is from thebookcoverdesigner.com. The other one's from goonwrite.com. They're for about between $30 and $40. And what you do is you just go on the site, you check on your genre. There's always a bunch of covers there. You choose the one that fits best for your story. And then you can do one of two things. You can just get the cover and then you replace the title there. So this one says, he said, she said. You'd replace it to whatever it is you want. And then you'd also replace, put in your name there. Or you could perhaps pay the designer at the site, like $5, and they'll do that for you. And then you have a cover. It's professionally made. It's something that you like, and you're done. Another way of doing it is you can have a cover custom designed for you. Back in the olden days, I used to do this. I paid, although the range is between $45 and $100, I paid $55 for my cover. And being a Photoshop expert, I decided to mock something up to kind of give the designer an idea of what I was looking for. I did not come into my skills quite at this point, but you could tell from this, it's called Run the Red Reaper, it was at the time, and it's about a guy being chased by a red version of the Grim Reaper. Then I went and I chose two covers of books that I liked. And these are the two covers I liked. And I took all three of these things, I sent them to the designer, and I said, give me something good, and they gave me this. So for $55 and a little bit of my time, I got a cover that I was really happy with. It really stood out and followed all those rules of it hints to the genre. It sort of hints to the story, kind of. It looks professional. It stands out from the pack. The other option is the one that I do now, which is I create my own covers, which is something that you guys can do as well. It does not have to be complex. And what you would do is, first of all, you have to find a stock image. And you can go to places like canstockphoto.com or iStockPhoto or dreamtime.com. Those are the popular ones. I'm a big fan of CanStockPhoto. I get almost everything from there. And here is an example of some of the images that I pulled down for a book cover. So we have the guy with abs and a couple of other images. Then what you do, you take these images and you put them into a piece of software like Photoshop. Or, since that is exceptionally expensive, you can put them into something called GIMP. GIMP is a lesser version of Photoshop that does almost everything that Photoshop does, but distinctly everything that you need. You just need to figure out how to use it. It's kind of complex, but it does everything you want. And then you need to get some great fonts. Fonts are really what separate professional covers from non-professional covers. And you can get fonts from places like dafont.com and myfonts.com. And what you do basically is you go to the site, there's a search engine, you type in what genre you're looking for, or maybe like a feel, like let's say you want to do a horror thing. You type in horror, you say, well, something religious, and they give you fonts that remind you of that genre. Many of them are free. You can just download them and put them onto your computer, and then you just have them forever. And some of them are donations, and other of them cost money. And you can choose anything you want. And there's a lot there, and if you're doing a cover yourself, I highly recommend getting more fancy-looking fonts, because Times New Roman isn't a great font for a cover. So this was the images I chose. I added a little bit of creativity to that. I added some cool fonts, and of course you've already seen the cover. So those 3 images went into making Pact. Now let's talk about titles. Titles that sell. There are basically only 2 rules when it comes to titles. You need something that's genre appropriate, and you need something that hints to what the book is about. And I'm going to put up a couple of titles here and just kind of discuss them. Celestine Prophecies. Very big book a while ago, but if you just look at the words, Celestine, which isn't actually a word, but it sounds angelic. And then you have prophecies. So just by looking at the title, you would think it's some sort of book about angelic prophecies. And that's exactly what the book is. Then it went on to sell millions of copies. As He Desires, one of my titles. Desires is kind of a code word for steamy romance. As He is kind of makes it all in a sort of, the person saying it or the person the story is about is kind of in a submissive position. So it's a romance about a guy who's very alpha male, and that's what the story is about. 50 Shades of Grey. Shades of Grey is a discussion of morality. 50 Shades of Grey means an endless discussion of morality. And of course, 50 Shades of Grey is all about the questionable morality. Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. You guys all know that title. And my favorite, maybe because it's my next book, which is The 7 Men You Meet Before Your True Love. And I'm hoping that's self-explanatory. It's a book about the 7 men you meet before your true love. So that's really what you're looking for in titles. Just something that kind of hints to what the book is going to be about. Now let's talk about descriptions. You guys are the first people I'm discussing this with. I belong to a group of rather successful romance authors, adult romance authors, and a while ago I was kind of perplexed because although I make my living doing it and I do well, a lot of the writers on our site do a lot better than me. And I couldn't figure out why that was because I felt, well, there's only 3 things that go into people deciding to buy a book, really. I thought my titles were pretty good. I thought my covers were really strong. So it had to be my descriptions that were a little on the weak side. So I decided to, with my group, do a study of successful books. But not just successful books, because Stephen King has a lot of successful books. But his books aren't successful because of the great description or like that. They're sold because it's Stephen King. And that goes for a lot of people. So what I had to do is I had to find first-time authors who exploded on their first book. A lot of these people ended up being successful authors who came up with a different pen name. And with this new pen name, suddenly they just shot to the chart. No one knew who they were, but still they made it to the top 100 on Amazon, selling thousands and thousands of copies of their books. And what I figured out, with the help of my colleagues, is that there are certain things that are true for every description of a successful book. They have a kind of standard length. They're between 150 and 225 words. They have, not all of them, this one is kind of optional, but many of them have attention-grabbing first sentences. They have clear statements of subgenres. So let's say your genre is romance. There's a lot of categories within romance, for example, westerns. For example, things for curvy ladies. And in the description, are words that indicate that this is what these are the subgenres which are contained in the story. Stated conflicts, plot twists, intensifying descriptive words, proposed questions, implied mysteries, and very important, this is for fiction, classic literary tropes. What that is, for example, Cinderella. Everyone knows Cinderella. And it's so popular that people take the plot line of Cinderella and make it into other stories, movies, books, whatnot. So we all know Cinderella is about a woman from, or a girl from lesser standings. She meets a prince. The prince whisks her away, and they have a wonderful life together. There's a movie by Jennifer Lopez. I think the movie is called Made in Manhattan. I think that's the title of the movie. In which case, Jennifer Lopez plays a maid who likes to dress up in the rich clothes of the people staying at the hotel. And one day, a wealthy man sees her and falls in love with her. And then the story begins. I hate to give it away for you, but Jennifer Lopez ends up with the guy in the end. And this is an example of the Snow White trope. And there are many of them. Any movie you watch has a trope associated with it. So let us take a look at a description and see how all those things are added in there. And coincidentally enough, we're going to do one of my books. We're going to do Pact. So I'm going to read it through. What if suddenly every hot guy wanted you? The curvy, eternally awkward wallflower Saki Lightborn knows exactly what that's like. Picked on, or even worse, flat out ignored by every member of the opposite sex since puberty, she's dragged across the globe to a new school in the hauntingly beautiful Bahamas. Her first day was no paradise, though. Accused of stealing some sort of werewolf medallion, bullied, and then getting into a fight with her mom, things couldn't have gone worse. But then she meets Dax, the super sexy boy from her class, who has more than just animal magnetism. One mysterious night with him and everything changes. Now she's strong, confident, and every hot guy wants her. But was it a good idea to attract the attention of the dark, brooding Lane LeFleur? Sure, he's gorgeous and built like a Greek god, but he's as hot as he is dangerous. And when he pulls up to her house one full moon demanding that she go with him, she isn't prepared for where he would take her or who she would become. Dun, dun, dun. So now let's take a look at that in comparison to all the criteria necessary for a successful description. The length, how long was it? It was 179 words, which puts us smack in the center between 150 words and 225 words. Did it have an attention-grabbing first sentence? What if suddenly every hot guy wanted you? Hopefully that gets people to stop and go, what if suddenly every hot guy wanted me? At least my audience. So yes, clear statements of subgenres. Well, this story happens to be a story for full-figured women, and it happens to be a werewolf story. And if you look throughout the description there, you see the word curvy mentioned, you see the word werewolf, and you see the word full moon, which is a clear indication of werewolf. Stated conflicts. There are three of them. She's accused of stealing the medallion, she gets bullied, and she argues with her mom. So the reader knows, okay, so if I read this story, there's going to be some nice juicy conflict going on there. Plot twists. Well, there are two of them. She meets the sexy boy after all of the boys before in her life ignored her, and she meets a dangerous guy when she thought that everything was going well and it was good to have all of the guys wanting her. Intensifying descriptive words. Well, in this one, I like to pad up my descriptions with intensifying words. So there's sexy, there's brooding, there's gorgeous, there's Greek god, there's another sexy, and there's dangerous. Proposed questions. There are two. What if every guy wanted you? What it does is it interacts with the reader, taking them out of the moment and kind of allowing them to invest into your story. And also, was it good to attract the dangerous and dark, brooding Elaine LaFleur? Implied mysteries. There are 3 of them. What did Dax do to her? Why did suddenly all of her life change? Where does Lane LaFleur, take her when he takes her away? And what happens to her next? Then finally, classic trope. Can anyone guess or pick up on what classic trope this is? Tropes are hard. That's like the hardest thing. But can anyone guess what it is? It's not one of the big ones. This is, have you ever seen those movies where there's a girl in high school and she's kind of nerdy and she falls in love with the jock, but she doesn't have a chance because she's the nerdy one. And then there's a friend that says, you know what? You could have her. If I just fix you up a bit, I'll take off your glasses and then I'll take off your hair ribbon. You can shake back your hair and put on this red dress. And then suddenly the jock wants her. This is it. It is the...
16
Yeah, basically, yes. It's the makeover story. It's the makeover trope. It's the ugly duckling story, where a person grows up their entire life feeling not pretty, then something happens, and then all of a sudden they're beautiful. So that's an example of how fiction descriptions work. And I always sold fine, especially internationally. But this ended up being my first really big hit. So this book went on to be the #1 downloaded shifter romance on Amazon for actually 2 days. But it made it to #1, and that's what I'm talking about. So the question, did you?
Yeah, what's the target market, the age range? Do you consider that who's going to be buying your book?
This is actually an interesting thing, because this is a story about a high school girl. The target market for this book is actually women 18 to about 45. It's a subject called, or it's a subgenre called new adult. And new adult is, so there's young adults. There's Harry Potter, which is young adult. Those readers who grew up reading that grew up. And they started wanting stories that were a little more reflective of the things they were going through in their life. So they tend to have sex. They tend to have real conflicts with actual problems. And it was recently, within the past 3 years, kind of labeled new adult, and that's what this is. What that is. So how do you make your book look professional? When I first started writing, I remember going to a website kind of talking about this topic, and the website was on whether or not you should hire an editor. And I thought, what do you mean if you should hire an editor? Of course you're going to hire an editor. You're not going to put something out there and not have an editor read over it. Yeah, that was my philosophy back then. It's actually up to you. And that's kind of strange to say. But the truth is that, for example, for Pact, I've been using an editor pretty consistently for the past, I don't know, let's call it like 6 or 7 releases. And it's a good one. I looked at about 7 different editors. I had them all take tests, and I hired the best one. And I released Pact. And still, I got people writing reviews talking about the 3 misused words in the story. So it's up to you. I have found that I have had the most success with going through a process of going through it. You do a read through, and then you put it into a piece of software that reads the story back to you. So you have it first visually, and then you're listening for any sort of mistakes. So you go through there. And then what I used to do is I used to take the stories and then record the audiobooks for it. And between those three processes, I was able to find, I think, everything. Or at least I didn't get any reviews after that talking about any grammar or misused words sort of situations. So do you use an editor? It's up to you, really. But if you do, I recommend two places to find them. One being odesk.com, which is a site for outsourced talent, which is what I talked about the last time. Actually, the last thing I did, I recorded, and there's a video on it, and I'm sure John could point you to that if you want to see that one. And also elance.com. They're both places. What you do is you post an ad on there for whatever you'd like, whether it's editors or whether it's translators, anything like that. You can find them there. Formatting your books. All of the distributors have ways they like you to format your books. So there's Amazon, there's Barnes & Noble, there's Apple, there's Smashwords. Those are the ones that tend to be the most demanding. You can absolutely learn how to do it. They have a whole bunch of documents on the website that you can look into, and you will learn that way. That's how I did it. It took a while. It was a pain in the butt, massively. But I figured it out, and you can as well. Another way you can do it is you can hire someone to do it.
So they have a template on there right now, or just examples?
No, they have their requirements. So they will say, like Amazon will say, you have to have legal in there. You have to have your publishing company's name. You have to have a first page that has the author name on it and so forth. Smashwords, which I'll get to later, has much more stringent requirements on exactly what they want. But if you want to hire someone to do it for you, you can find someone. There are a lot of them out there. It costs between $120 to $150 or even going up. Or you can use software. Sort of like the software that I created, which I'll talk a little bit more a little later. So you're an author. You write a book. You go through the process of creating a cool cover and description. You have a nice title, and you've edited the book. And you have decided to upload it to Amazon and start your marketing and all the rest of it. That's great. But I found that if that's all you do, you're actually leaving money on the table. And as a professional author, it's sacrilege to leave money on the table. So here are the major ways of adding a little bit of additional revenue to your pockets. First one being paperbacks. You can distribute your paperbacks through two places. There are a couple of places, but these are the two big ones. CreateSpace is an Amazon company, and Lulu is an independent company. So what you do here is you take your ebook, you reformat it for paperback. And again, they have their requirements. They need the first page to be title, author, publishing company, imprint name, and then there has to be a blank page, and then there's more stuff there. And it's a fairly strict way of creating a book, but it's a standard way. So if you picked up any book off the shelf in a store, they would all follow this model. So you take it, you format your book, and then you create a cover that has not just a front image, but a back image and a spine, and you add whatever you want to that. Then you go to, for example, CreateSpace. You upload the Word document or whatever it is you output. You upload the cover. You input the description of the book. You input the price and all that stuff. You hit save, and then 2 days go by, and they contact you saying that your book is ready to be published. It has been approved. Just hit the publish button, and in a few days, your book will be appearing on Amazon. And the way that works is that if a reader is on Amazon, you have an ebook, you have a paperback, they'll decide between the two. If they click on the paperback version, they will receive the book usually within 2 or 3 days. and it's printed on demand, is what it's called.
Just so people know, that's how we did my mom's book.
Yes.
You can see the quality that she brought it.
Excellent. The second way of making a little bit of extra money from your book are audiobooks. Before, this was a near impossible thing to do, but with the addition of ACX, which is surprisingly an Amazon company, it has become a lot easier. So the way it works with audiobooks is, well, first my experience. My experience is I am always looking for whatever it is that's going to make me more money. So when ACX came about, I decided to give this a try. So I turned my closet into a recording studio. It's not really that complex. I got some soundboard. I got a microphone that I knew was high quality. I took my computer and I connected them all together, recorded my book. Luckily, I have production experience, so I was able to edit out all of my ums and all the rest of it, so it was a smooth reading experience. I took that file, you have to process in a particular way. I then uploaded it to ACX along with my new cover, which is slightly different from the paperback cover and the ebook cover. And then within 2 weeks, it appears on Amazon, and you receive currently 40% of the amount of the sale. On ebooks, you receive at Amazon, you receive 70% of the amount of the sale. And you get to choose your own price. So I like the major price point for self-published books is $2.99. So 70% of $2.99 is about $2.03 for every book that you sell. Audiobooks.
Where was the second place?
Say it again.
You said Amazon, and where was the other?
Amazon for books, for ebooks.
For audio.
Audiobooks is ACX.
But,
ACX is the entity in which you upload to.
but you publish it on Amazon.
They then filter it out to Amazon, to Apple,
Oh, they do.
and Audible.
Okay. And
So the three major-
40% from Amazon, and where was the 70%?
70% is your ebook.
Oh, the ebook.
The ebook is 70%.
Oh,
Your audiobook is 40%. And you don't get to choose what your price is. So I write mostly, well, novellas. And they kind of have a standard price for that, which is around $6.95. They determine the price based on length. And then 40% of that would be around $2 and something cents. That's one way you can do it. If you are not a voiceover person, if you do not feel like building a sound studio in your closet like I did, ACX is taking care of that. ACX is also a marketplace where if you have a book and you like an audiobook, you go to ACX, you upload a proposal to ACX, and then voiceover artists and / producers will look at your proposal and decide whether or not they would like to produce this for you in 2 possible deals. And this is what you decide when you upload. You could do a flat fee rate, in which case you pay them something along the lines of between $150 and $200 per finished hour. And there's a calculation to determine how long your book is and how many hours it'll end up being. Or there's a shared revenue deal. So if your ebook has a record of making money and you can prove that to the voiceover artists, there'll be more of them that say, I would like to do this because if the ebook made money, the audiobook will make money, and it's a 50-50 split. So it's a 50-50 split of 40%.
Now, where are you doing your ebook? I'm kind of confused here.
The ebooks?
Yeah.
The ebooks are done to places like Amazon or Apple, actually, and Apple, and Kobo, and Smashwords, and
But backing
much
it
for
up
the
a
list.
little bit,
Mhm.
are you saying that you're taking, because we had to do ours through Kindle and it's a completely different setup than when it's a paperback going to be printed. So which way are you going in for your ebook?
For the ebook,
Mm-hmm.
KDP. The Kindle, you said you went into Kindle. So what you used was KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing.
Yeah.
And that is how I do it.
Okay.
Uh,
For some reason, I thought you were saying that if you do ACX, it'll like take the audio, translate it, and put it into an ebook. And I was like, really?
Oh, no.
So I'm just imagining these things.
Oh,
Right?
yeah, that you're
Okay.
clearly a writer in training. So that's good. But no, ACX is just for audiobooks, and they will connect it to your ebook. Maybe that's what you thought. But yeah, so they'll connect it to this as they connected the paperback on Amazon.com. But I'll talk more about where they're distributed in a couple of slides. Next possible form of revenue, which is the one that's done very well by me, or I've done very well by it, which is translations. What I did is I went to the places I mentioned before, the Elances, the Odesks, and all those places, and I posted an ad saying, I'm looking for translators. I'm sorry to say that I don't pay very much, but you'd be surprised how many people you have out there that's willing to work for not a lot of money. Especially since many of these people, like if I want German, they're Germans actually looking at it and saying, I'd like to do this job. And there are a lot of people who speak German in Germany. So there are a lot of students, there are a lot of people who are out of work, and they're just looking for anything. And they just love writing, and they want to be a part of it, or they really love adult romance. I don't know why. I just know that I can find translators, and I don't have to pay them very much. And sometimes I get bad reviews for bad translations, but I make a ton of money. So
What do you mean by not much for a translation?
a very, very small amount. I'm so embarrassed. I'm recording it, so I don't want to say it. I'll tell you afterwards.
So I was gonna say, there's a website.
No, I'm
called
recording.
Fiverr. There's a website called Fiverr for an idea of what people
Fiverr?
do. Fiverr, Fiverr, and people, it's like what people will do for $5.
Yes.
So that's an example.
For the record, I do pay more than $5.
I'm just saying. That's
But
an
there's,
example.
and websites like that where you can find people to do things for really inexpensive amounts.
Do you ever validate the translations, or is it just kind of like you just take that person on their word that what they're doing is accurate?
Initially, yes, I did validate the translations. Then I didn't. But on these websites, there are tests that they can do. So one of those tests are translation tests. And if they score high on that, that means that they're better than worse translators. Also, I don't hire anyone who's never translated before. So they will have reviews of other people who have had them as translators on their account.
And have you ever put anything through a translation program? You know how they have those programs?
I have, but I wouldn't recommend publishing it. They're really horrible. I mean, I had one translator who did that, and I didn't catch it, and it got published. And there were like 3 reviews within days saying, this is unlegible. Like they're not good. So I don't even try it.
This is somewhat related. This is actually a project I'm involved in now, like today and yesterday, which is I could open up bigger markets, obviously, by adding other languages.
And that's exactly the purpose of translation. You open up the market, your books, to people who might not have ever seen it otherwise. It's worked out extremely well for me. Whereas I've never hit #1 in adult romance in the United States. I've hit it in France 3 times. I've hit it in Italy. I've hit it in Brazil. And I've had very high rankings throughout the world. And if you want to get creative, you can. The first time I ever did a translation, it was very, very early in the e-publishing world. And I was the first of my group, one of the first self-publishers actually to really try this whole translation thing. And I had no idea it was going to work. So what I did was I posted an ad on Craigslist saying that I am doing this experiment. I'm looking for German translators. I expect you to translate a book for free. And if this experiment works, then I will hire you to do more translations. And I got a German translator, a French translator, and a Spanish translator out of it done for free. And I was good to my word. I then went and hired them, and they did 7 or 8 different stories afterwards. But if you're creative, you could figure out a way to do it on a budget. Third, so that's translations. Third is something called affiliate advertising. Affiliate advertising is when you see a website that's just informational, and they have all these links on it, the way they make money is they add affiliate links into the article so that when you click on the link, which is usually a related topic, it takes you to places like Amazon. If you buy something on Amazon, the person from the original website gets a percentage of whatever it is you purchased. This is a great form of advertising for places like Amazon. And this is another way that you can make money with your books. The way I do it is that I have links to my books on my website, and I have links to my other books in my books. So that I have a reader, they're reading my book, they say, oh, I really enjoyed that. I need to find another book on guys who stare at boxes. So they go to my back catalog and they find one of my books, they click on it, and then they go to Amazon and they purchase my book. 2 benefits. Benefits is that I sell another book, and then I benefit from gaining an additional 15 to 25 cents for that sale. So instead of receiving $2.05 for that book, I received $2.35 for that book, let's say, for example. And the only two programs worth doing it for authors are Apple and Amazon. I just started doing Amazon in January. And I am shocked to find out that since January, I've made $300 free money from including my affiliate links into my books and posting them on Amazon. Free money. Money that was been left on the table if I hadn't done it. So these are all ways you can expand your publishing empire to get every dime that is sitting on the table. So now let's talk about cool tools to use to help you publish your books. And you know what? I guess I'll just use the software I created. So what I did is I created my publishing assistant. And the reason why I created it was because of all the bureaucracy. I had an assistant. My assistant decided to take a class, and all of it fell back onto me for a few months. And I thought, geez, I wonder if there's a way that technology could help me. And there was. And I came up with a way of creating software that you take the ebook just like you do on Amazon. On Amazon, you take the text, you paste it in there, you take the description, you paste it in there, and then you upload the book. The software I created, it's built for people who are either unfamiliar with how to format books, or you do a lot of books. So what you do is, there are certain things about a book that never changes. Like if you publish 5 books, your author name will always be what it is. Your publishing company will most likely always be what it is. Same thing with your legal. Same thing with your genres. You're going to tend to work within the same genres. With the software, what you do is you enter all the information into the various categories, and then you're done. You do it once, it's there, it's done. So now, then you go to a page where you enter in the book-specific information. So you copy and paste the text from your Word document onto this page. You go to, once it gets published, you go to Amazon. You find the direct link on Amazon if you want, and you have affiliates. You take the affiliate code, you stick it into the link. Then you just copy and paste it and put it onto this particular page. So you have your Amazon link, you have your Apple link, you have your Kobo link, and all the rest of them. And once it's there, you don't have to do another thing. You don't have to worry about formatting. You don't have to worry about anything. You just click one button, and it spits out your book already formatted. It took me from spending about an hour and a half formatting to literally 6 minutes. I can't even remember how to publish about it. So that's what I created. And then, of course, once I did, I decided to start expanding. I never did paperbacks because romance is not a category that really sells in paperback, especially the steamy romance. People love ebooks for that. So I knew I wouldn't make much money doing it, and spending all that time formatting for paperback just wasn't worth it. Just didn't work out. But now I had all of the material already in a database. So why not just create a simple program that you add on to this, where you click one button and it spits out the paperback, all the internal already formatted. Done. So I created that along with it. So on top of these things, we have the back catalog links, which is, I made my $300 from Apple this year by just including the affiliate links sticking onto this page. So now when I output a new book, it has I get to choose what my back catalog advertisements will be. And it appears there. Anyone reads my book, wants to buy another one, they click on that link, they go to Amazon, and it includes my affiliate link, and I make more money selling books and on my advertisements. So that is what the software is for. And just because it's here, I'll go ahead and I'll play the video so you get a better feel of what it is.
My Publishing Assistant is a suite of WordPress plugins that make self-publishing easy. Do you spend too much time formatting your books? My Publishing Assistant's book management plugin formats your books with a push of a button. Simply set it up once, and the book management plugin can create EPUB, MOBI, PDF, HTML, and doc files that you can upload to Amazon and other retailers. And do you want your book to have back catalog links to specific bookstores? Enter your direct links for all of your vendors, and the book management plugin will include them in your back catalog. Then just choose the vendor and select the format you want. Would you also like to create your own custom layouts? Drag and drop the sections in the order you want and create the new sections that you need. Want to cross-promote your titles with a sneak peek? Or how about working with multiple pen names? Even book series and translations are handled like a breeze. Turn hours of self-publishing work into minutes. Add direct links to your back catalog and sell more books to your fans. My Publishing Assistant's book management plugin makes formatting your books as easy as pushing a button.
Well, now we're going to move on. So, ebook stores that sell your book, which is a question from earlier. I, again, don't believe in leaving any money on the table. So I will do all of my publishing directly. And the websites that allow you to do it are Amazon, Barnes & Noble, through Nook Press, Apple, Kobo, Google, and Lulu. Apple is a little difficult, I'll tell you right now. You have to have a corporation, and you kind of have to jump through hoops. But it's worth doing because I used to get Apple through another source. I started going direct, and my income basically tripled. And then if you do genre-specific books, there are websites specifically for particular genres. Romance, as you can probably guess, is huge. So there are a couple of websites for that, All Romance eBooks and Bookstrand.com. However, not everyone cares so much about every single dime like I do. Some people care more about their time than they do about money. I don't know those people. But for those people, there are book aggregators. And what they usually do is they take about 15%, and which you upload the book once, and then they distribute it to where they distribute it to. Smashwords is the end-all be-all for book aggregators, if you will. They publish your book everywhere, so you upload it there. To Amazon, no, not Amazon. Actually, not everywhere but Amazon. Barnes & Noble, places like Sony, which you can't get to directly, Kobo, and about 8 other places that are kind of small, as well as Apple. Apple's the big one that they go there. Lulu is, again, a small company, but I kind of recommend them. Even though they're small, they are a pain in the butt to try and figure out how to get your book on there. But once you figure it out, they will distribute it to Apple, and you will be able to track your sales on a daily basis. They do, Lulu does? Yeah, Lulu takes about a 15% percentage as well. And also the benefit to Lulu is that if you were to go through Smashwords, Smashwords takes 2 months to pay you. If you go through Lulu, Lulu pays you 15 days after the end of the month. It's almost like you could use Lulu like for quick cash. Like you do a book, you publish it, you try and get a bunch of people to sell it, in 15 days you have your money, you've made your, I don't know, car payment or something like that. It's that good, it's that quick. There's another place called Jingxi. That's for European bookstores. I go through there. They don't sell a ton, but they do sell. And there's something called draft to draft. I say draft to draft, but it's like draft to something else. And what they do is you upload your book there, and they take care of it. They send it to Amazon and a few other places as well. Someone had asked earlier when I was preparing this about intellectual property. How do you protect your books that you've worked so hard to write once you've written it? And really, there's one answer. You publish your book. There is no protection. You could upload a book to Amazon. Theoretically, in a month, you could see your book up on Amazon again, one thing written by Joe Schmo. And the only protection you have is the fact that your book was published first. This is kind of an issue when it comes to Amazon. This is not a pretty sort of situation. It doesn't happen very often. It's not something you really have to worry about. First of all, you have to have a book that's really successful for them to want to steal it. So congratulations on that. But afterwards, it's just a process of having to go through Amazon and telling them what has happened. How much can you expect to make? I don't know. It really depends on a lot of factors and how hard you work and a ton of things. But there are criteria that kind of give you a hint on how much you can make from publishing your book. The first thing is that genre really matters. So I mentioned before that I had done 10 titles in 7 different genres. 3 Christmases ago, my kids' educational book made it to number 5 in its category. Woohoo! I sold 12 books that day. Yeah, you know. A couple of months later, I had a romantic comedy that I offer for free go to number 1 in the humor section on Amazon, and there were 12,000 downloads in a day. 12,000. Genre really matters. So you may ask, well, what are the hot genres? What type of books should I be writing if I were to write books? On Amazon, the most popular type of book is the category mystery, thriller, suspense. That is by far the most popular category, followed by sci-fi, fantasy. Then after that is romance. And you would think the story would end there, but it doesn't actually, because this talk is about being a digital publisher. Digital readers are actually different than your typical reader, than your paperback reader. The number 1 category in ebooks is actually, you guessed it, romance, followed by mystery, thriller, suspense, and then sci-fi. So again, genre matters. Do you have a fan base? This will play a large part in how much you make. If you don't, I really recommend create a website. It's really not that hard. I was going to mention this before, but if you were to get a piece of software like, oh, I don't know, my software, I'm actually in the process of finishing one feature that you add on, just like you add on the paperback function. You can add on another piece of software, and it automatically creates a website for you. So for someone like me, it's huge because I have 250 titles. I basically stopped updating my website about a year ago because it just consumed way too much time. So I'm creating this to take away that entire process for me. So that's one way of creating a website. But it's not so hard to create websites.
Yeah, you mentioned you do not like leaving money on the table.
No.
So what is the benefit of giving your book away to Amazon for free?
Are you jumping ahead?
Yes.
Oh.
You're jumping ahead.
Oh, no.
I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
So the next thing you should do is you should create a newsletter. I'm sure you guys have signed up for things, and then your email starts to get full of these annoying newsletters from these people constantly pestering you, telling you that you should come to this workshop, or you should do this, or do something like that. There's a reason why they do it. It's extremely effective. I highly recommend it. I have a newsletter. I started it a year and a half ago, or maybe 2 years ago. I can't remember this point. And I was so excited the first time I got my sign up, and then my second sign up, and then my third sign up, and now I have over 2,000 people on my newsletter. And it's very helpful because, first of all, I can, whenever I release a book, I tell my newsletter followers, those who want to, go to Amazon, and my sales are boosted up for that day. Secondly, I discovered this a little later that, well, I knew that reviews sold books. But what I discovered was that if you have 2,000 people who really love your books, and you offer them your book for free, and say that you can have this book if they write you a review, you're basically going to get nothing but 5-star reviews. A lot of them. That was one of the smartest things that I have done in terms of marketing my book and advertising my book. So now there's a question, and I think someone might have mentioned before about offering your books for free, like I just did. There are many reasons why you can do it. You can do it to encourage to get reviews. There are review copies. Or you can do what a lot of people do. If you go to Amazon and you go to the, let's say, romance category, you'll see the top 100 romance books. And then you'll see on the side of it, or maybe you'll have to click on a link at this point, the top 100 free romance books. And there are a lot of books there. I mean, you could go a long time and read books and never buy a book. So you have to wonder why it is that people like authors like myself would possibly offer a book for free. It is the best form of marketing that you could do. Why? Because research has been done that shows that the person most likely to buy your next book is someone who has already purchased your book. It is someone who is already familiar with your work. So how do you break into the consciousness of readers? Well, the easiest way to do it is to offer your book for free. That's what shot my book Pact up the bestsellers list, because I structured it in such a way that the first book went for free, and to find out the rest of the story, you had to buy the full book, and that really worked.
When you said the first book for free, you only gave them excerpts of that first book, right?
What I did was I took my story, I split it up into 3 parts because I did a lot of novellas. So my audience was fine with me releasing it in novella form. So I split it up into 3 novellas. I released the first novella for free. I then packaged the first and second novella into one book, sold it for $2.99, which made it a 200-page paperback book. So I made the paperback out of that. I released the second book as a combo, and then I released a third book, which was also 200 pages, and the kind of conclusion of the story. So you can be creative. If you write a long enough book, you can kind of have like an ending point and offer that for free. And if someone really wants it to finish the story, they'll have to buy the entire book. So another factor that determines how much you can possibly make is how many books you've released. Back when I started out, and of course I was writing novellas, there was a magic number that was always talked about, and it was the 30-book rule. Once you hit 30 books, you will be making a living. That was a great incentive to really turn out the books. I have 250 now, but man, did I fight to get those 30 books. And funny enough, when I hit 30, I was making a living. I wasn't making a huge living, but I was paying all of my bills, and I had enough money to go and do fun things on the side. I was making my living after 30. Now I have a few more. But depending on your category and how long your books are, that's a kind of a good goal to point to. And if you write really long books, then the number could probably come down by a little.
About how long are your books?
In word counts, they are as short as 5,000 words. No, sorry, 6,000 words. They average somewhere around 10,000 to 12,000 words. and then they go as long as 70,000 words. What also matters in terms of how much you make is the season. The biggest season for selling books is Christmas. And from the end of November through the beginning of January is the hottest season for selling books. That's when everyone makes the most of their money. The others, after that, February tends to be pretty good for me as well, for some reason, but not for most people. It dips, and then the middle, late April, it starts picking back up. May tends to be very good, and then it kind of sticks around until the beginning of June, then it falls down, and then it's kind of low throughout the summer, all the way again until November.
So are people buying their summer reading in April and May? Is that what's going on?
That's a really good question. A lot of people talk about summer reading, so I have to assume that it comes into play. It could have to do with school coming out. It could have to do with people who finally caught up for their Christmas expenses, which is a real factor. I'm not sure.
They're spending their tax refund?
It could be April, yeah. It actually could be the tax refund as well. They go out and they buy an e-reader, and then they need to fill it with stuff. Because that's what happens in Christmas. People get used to at least get e-readers for Christmas, and then they have this cool toy, and they need to put stuff on it. So they go out and indulge in a whole bunch of books. So after all this, I like to kind of sum up by asking the question, why write? There are a couple of reasons why you should write a book. You write because you love it. I mean, that's really why anyone should be putting pen to paper if you don't know how to use a computer, or fingers to keyboard if you want to be a digital publisher. Write because there's something you want to share. That's good enough. If there's something that you really want to get out to the public, write a book. You can publish it, you can get it out there, and you never know what happens. You might want to extend your brand. If you are a person who you do motivational speaking, or if you are a psychotherapist and you just want more customers, or any reason, write a book about your subject matter, and it kind of gives you more prestige. I don't really generally recommend writing books to make money. However, if you do decide to write to make money, then there are rules you should follow. You should treat it like a job. If you're going to be making a living, if you want to make a living at writing, be professional, which means that you write regularly and publish frequently. Write for your audience. Stick with popular genres and underserved niches. Learn your marketing craft. And by marketing, I mean the things I talked about, which are the covers, creating nice covers, strong titles, and strong descriptions. And then, almost more importantly, build a fan base. And by that I mean create a website and have a newsletter. So I'd like to leave you guys with this quote. Kind of sums up my feeling, which is, write what you know. Unless you want to make a living, in which case you figure out how to write what other people want to read. If I had known that back when I had started writing, I would not have spent as long as I had trying to figure stuff out. Because as I said, I had written that children's education book. And I'm very glad I wrote that book. I mean, it's helped a lot of people. You know, the reviews say that and whatnot. But it did not help me make a living. So if you do want to make a living at writing, figure out what people want to read and then write that. And finally, thank you.
All right, thank you, Alex. That was fantastic. So with the, I believe, 15 minutes we have, we'll take a couple questions. That's all right with you, Alex?
Absolutely. Start in front.
Okay, when you were talking about the Amanda Hawking book,
Yeah.
I think you mentioned that you went to a website of digital authors. Is that a website that's still around? Or
Absolutely.
what's the name of it, did you say?
It's kboards.org. Letter K, BOARDS.org.
And is that the group that you've been talking with when you said that you made your little survey of what was it?
No, that's a different group. That was kind of an outspurt of that, but that's just for adult romance authors. Sorry, here.
Have you written any nonfiction?
When I started out, I did something a little different. I never really believed that nonfiction would sell. So what I did was I took what I wanted to say that would be considered nonfiction, and I inserted it into a story. So technically, no, but I still communicated nonfiction ideas within my story concept.
So I'm really active on Goodreads.com, that
Yes.
kind of website. What's your opinion and thoughts on that? Because I find that's a lot of times people will use that to see if they want to buy a book in addition to your 3 reasons. What are your thoughts?
They're really harsh with reviews. That's my thoughts. It's a great community. If you have any interest in a particular topic or the genre, there are, as you know, an endless amount of people there who will talk about it, and there are book clubs, and it's a wonderful, wonderful organization. I don't use it very often because it's a hard nut to crack from an author standpoint. If they love you, it could be the beginning of making a lot of money, but I haven't been able to figure out how to do it. But I recommend it if you're a reader, or if you're really a devoted author that is willing to put in the hard time.
What was the website he was talking about?
Goodreads.com.
The website and the app.
Yeah.
Hi, I have a question about, you published a lot of books on e-versions.
Mhm.
What do you do in the case of finding errors or making updates once you publish something?
You mean after I crawl into a ball in my bed? Well, I sometimes people mention what the errors are in the reviews, and I correct them, and then we upload the book. Or I send it back to, or I take the review, paste it in an email to my editor, and go, oh, by the way, this review happened to show up here. Do you know what this might be referring to? Do a little bit of public shaming, and do that.
I have a question, Alex. In addition to the newsletters, what about like the face-to-face community type of activities? Do you do anything like that for any of your literature?
I don't, because of my subject matter. I tried to actually, I was thinking about creating, because it's adult romance. I was thinking about creating a meetup for adult romance authors because there's a perception out there of what adult romance authors are like. I know it's crazy, right? When the truth is, adult romance authors are people like myself. And one of the most successful adult romance authors has her what is it, master's in clinical psychology. And some were engineers. A lot of us are very successful people outside of publishing, and then we just happen to like this topic and we publish in it. So I was thinking perhaps I should start up a meetup, but you'd be surprised how resistant adult romance authors are to kind of reveal who they are, so it's kind of a challenge, so not really.
So you don't do book signings for your current books?
No, mostly because before recently I didn't do paperbacks. Well, only recently that I started doing paperbacks that I started doing that, but no, I don't.
So you haven't had any requests from your fans to do?
Not for that.
What about digital signatures for ebooks?
Again, no one's requested. I mean, they're really, my fans are great. I mean, they're just, I love them all. I really, really do. But they just don't request stuff like that.
Oh, how much is your software?
$69. It's $69 to own it, or if you want to just do it on a monthly basis, it's between $2.99 and $5.99 a month.
Is that because it's adult romance?
Yeah, $69.
What the what?
The price.
Oh, the price. Oh, you know what? I never even thought about that. That's brilliant. Never even thought about that.
Your daughter will explain.
Oh, yeah, let's see if I could do that here. Let's see.
Sometimes Chris has to like re-sign his back in, that's still.
Couple weeks. Yeah, Google Guest as well, so you can open up the YouTube.
Hold on a second. Let me just do this before I plug it back in.
Okay.
Oh, where is it?
Yeah.
You can talk, or you can ask me questions, and I will.
Any other questions in the back?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You said that you went on Jerry Springer's Daily Show.
I did indeed.
Yeah, was it baggage?
Yes, it was.
You wasn't baggage, how'd you do?
How do you think I did?
Not well, probably.
I won. What are you talking about?
That show was, you had some baggage, huh?
No, I had good baggage.
Yeah, good baggage.
Actually, one of my one of my pieces of baggage was the book that I wrote. I only agreed to go on so that I could promote the book, and it was kind of like a risque topic book. So one of my pieces of baggage was that I wrote this book. But no, I won. Come on.
You still seeing the girl?
We never went out because it's fake. I mean, the show is all real. I mean, we get to choose and all that stuff. But it's all about. Why is what on my screen not showing up there?
That's an excellent question.
It's all about. It's just about what happens on screen. So, quick story. There are three guys. I was one of the guys. There was a girl who had to choose, and then I was the person who won. And at the end of the show, we go through 3 levels of baggage, and then at the end, the woman reveals her baggage and see whether it's a match. And it was a match, but we didn't end up going out. Yeah.
How long would it typically take you to write one of your novels?
The novels?
Or novellas or whatever. I mean, if we're going to write these books, if we're going to discipline ourselves, how long should we say the book should take us? Is it a month? Should we spend a month, a couple of months, or?
I think a better way of answering that question would be to talk about how much you should write in one sitting. Because authors tend not to think about pages, especially digital authors. They think about words, because you can adjust the word size on all these devices. So what is 5 pages? What is 100 pages? So I started out writing about 1,500 words a day. And then I realized that the people who were making money were writing a lot more than that. So then I upped my game and I started writing about 4,000 words a day.
So how many hours are we saying that's going to take you per day? You're saying you're going to
About
sit down for 4 hours?
4 or 5 hours a day.
Right.
But now I generally write more like between 4,000 and 5,000 words a day. And you just kind of calculate that out. So if your book is going to be, let's say that you want to do a novel, so you have to make it somewhere around 55,000 to 60,000 words, you just do the math.
Your typical romantic novel is going to be how many?
My typical is going to be like 12,000 words.
So you'd be able to knock that out in a month?
No, I knocked that out in 3 days.
Oh yeah, 3 days. Right.
3 to 4 days.
But with all the editing and everything, I'm saying.
No. Editing, I give myself 2 days for editing.
Right.
I usually give myself for like half a day for book covers and like half a day for descriptions. I used to do all the descriptions a lot faster, but I've slowed down because they've gotten harder.
So you're basically writing a book in like a week and a half?
Yes.
Well, how many books do you do a year?
It varies. the 250 number is with translations. So I have about 90 books in English. That 90 has been written since September of 2011. So what's the math there? I think I do something like, I used to do something like 15 to 25 books a year. Does that sound right? And some of those books are anthologies. So you take one story, you write, if it's successful, you take the heart of that story, whatever that story was about, you write 3 more stories. So you have 3 stories there, and then you package it for more money and sell that as an anthology. And it's a strategy that works.
On the other hand, Moby Dick took 8 years to write.
Yes.
But everybody's heard of Moby Dick.
Yes, but then he had to figure out how to make a living during the 8 years that he was writing.
Well, yeah, right.
And I mean,
he didn't have e-publishing either, or even Word.
Exactly. It's like handwriting.
Chris, the assistants for the video.
Can you explain the anthology part? Because I thought that was going to be a collection of other people's stories. You're taking your
They can be.
stories.
Anthologies are both. But generally speaking, authors who are prolific, they also do anthologies. So they will take, there are times when your book sells more. So when you release a book, you're selling, you're going to sell your peak probably in the beginning, and then it dies off. So you release another book, your second book starts selling, and then your first book starts selling again as well. And as you release books, it kind of has this sort of wave. And then eventually it all kind of dies off. And you can either let that book go, or you can then take those books, package it up, and get one more big boost out of it. And that's what most authors do.
So that's where I'm a little confused. You're taking the 2 books and putting them into one.
Yeah. One thing, it's more like not necessarily 2 books, more like 3 books. 3 to 7 books, let's say. Oh, that's why. It's a shared screen experience. Oh.
My Publishing Assistant is a suite of WordPress plugins that make self-publishing easy. Do you spend too much time formatting your books? My Publishing Assistant's book management plugin formats your books with a push of a button. Simply set it up once, and the book management plugin can create EPUB, MOBI, PDF, HTML, and doc files that you can upload to Amazon and other retailers. And do you want your book to have back catalog links to specific bookstores? Enter your direct links for all of your vendors, and the book management plugin will include them in your back catalog. Then just choose the vendor and select the format you want. Would you also like to create your own custom layouts? Drag and drop the sections in the order you want and create the new sections that you need. Want to cross-promote your titles with a sneak peek? Or how about working with multiple pen names? Even book series and translations are handled like a breeze. Turn hours of self-publishing work into minutes. Add direct links to your back catalog and sell more books to your fans. My Publishing Assistant's book management plugin makes formatting your books as easy as pushing a button.
An affiliate program for this one? Like we can help resell it?
Not formally, but if you were to contact me, I do have a deal that I offer people who want to do affiliate sort of marketing tool stuff.
I think I did this the hard way through Smashwords myself.
Smashwords is a pain. It really is.
And I'm looking at that
So will that presentation be available?
It will be available, so since we're at time, again, Alex, thank you, let's give Alex another round of applause. How many people